fun, field trips outside of school, and even visits to Europe are all managed by teachers, donating their time to this community and its children. When I leave school on Tuesdays and Thursdays to join the Wheeler Library staff so they can stay open late, field
I'm
trips
happy to
outside
do
of
it.
school, and even visits to Europe are all managed by teachers, donating their time to this community and
Do I
its
need to
children.
stop?
When I
Take 2
leave school
minutes?
on Tuesdays and Thursdays to join the Wheeler Library staff so they can stay open late,
I only have a sentence.
it gives me a chance to get to know families and meet community members. Teachers give back to the community in many ways that you might not know or think about, but I would hesitate to think of them as just a paycheck. Okay. When I leave school on Tuesdays and Thursdays to join the Wheeler Library staff so they can stay open late, I'm happy to do it. It gives me a chance to get to know the families and meet community members. Teachers give back to the community in many ways that you might not know or think about, but I would hesitate to think of them as just a paycheck.
Any other public comment? So just the same for you. If you could just use that microphone right there for me, it would be awesome. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jackie Berry. I'm a reading specialist at the elementary school, and I'm also the union president. This is my first year being the teachers union president. I just want to let you know that public speaking is not my forte, so I'm probably already beat red in the face because that's what happens every time I get in front of a group. I wanted to share some comments that I saw online today regarding our school district. The first two are from graduates of North Stonington. The North Stonington School District is wonderful. Their class sizes are small and students become close with teachers. Everyone at North Stonington is there to help you succeed. I cannot rave about the district enough. The district has made me the person I am today and the teacher that I want to be. This comment is from a retired teacher that I found on Facebook. The staff and students are top-notch. This comment is from a current teacher. I work with the best. This is from a former long-term substitute. North Stonington Elementary School welcomed me with open arms. What a difference a positive environment can make. Truly the best coworkers and students. This is from a current administrator. I am so proud of the NOSO staff for their hard work to support all students and their varying learning styles. This is truly a remarkable place. And this last comment is from our very own superintendent, Troy Hopkins. I have found a community consistently passionate about preparing individuals to lead fulfilling lives while contributing to the success of others and the world. It is tremendously rewarding to be part of the continuous efforts to provide the best possible education for every student. I just want to say he's absolutely right. We are a community, but not only that, we are a family. We don't want to lose any of our family members. We value each and every member of our North Stonington family, and you should too. So please think about this when you're considering our budget. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for coming in. Anyone else? Do I have any public comment online? Okay.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. Do you want to just identify yourself?
Sure. I'm sorry. I'm trying to put my video back on as well.
Is that you, Jane?
It is.
Hi.
Hi. All right. Well, I'm just going to speak behind my name here. My name is Jane Servideo. I am a fourth grade teacher at North Stonington Elementary School. I have been a teacher. The year I was hired was in 1992. For all of the years that I have grown as a teacher, I've stayed in North Stonington my entire professional life. My children both were students in North Stonington. We've had some tough budget years, but in the end, we were able to see what was most important. And what we all want to say to everybody here is the most important thing that makes North Stonington special is the community itself. It's the students, it's the families, it's the community members that don't presently have children in the district, but still support our schools. It is amazing. We always say that North Stonington is a special place, but when you hear substitute teachers come into the schools year after year after year, and they are subbing in districts all over the place, and they say all the time, these schools are a special place. There's nothing like this, the school climate and atmosphere. There's nothing like this anywhere else. And part of what makes that relationship so special is that the teachers always know that they are supported by the Board of Education. And that trust and relationship that we've had for so many years has really made us a strong district, a district that people know about outside of North Stonington. They want to know what we're doing. They want to know our secrets. So I just want to say that in the 32 years that I've been in North Stonington, that I wouldn't think about teaching anywhere else, even if it was, no, I'm not going to say that out loud. But it's just such a gem. And I don't want us to lose that feeling or have seeds of mistrust or feelings that we're not supported, because that is what really makes us willing to try new things, is when we have support from our Board of Ed. So thank you very much. And I will yield back.
Thanks, Jane. Any other public comment online or in the room? Okay, seeing none really now. We will move on to correspondence. I think in your board packet, you all have gotten an email that was included from Beth Kermsey in support of M&J Bus Company. Okay, I think since everybody has it, there's no need to read it. So old business RFP updates. Troy, do you want to update us?
Yeah, good evening. The RFP updates include two. One is the irrigation update, and we're still waiting for the state going back and forth to have that phone call, have to write a letter. Telling her, you know, here's some things you need, she's been doing them, and then she's like, okay, well, now you can do these things. So it's actually back and forth, and we're still waiting. The other RFP is the transportation RFP. We follow the purchasing process. We held a mandatory pre-bid meeting, and we'll be waiting for M&J to submit their bid. That is the update.
I can speak from here. It's fine. Yeah, so the just to repeat, RFP update, the irrigation one's still in process. It's not out yet. But the transportation one is far along. One company attended the mandatory pre-bid meeting. That was M&J Bus. So they'll be submitting their bid on February 21st, and we'll be going with that. I'm very pleased about that.
Okay, any questions about the RFP? All right, on to the budget.
Can I ask a question before we get started?
Yes, please.
I don't know if I've missed a meeting or I'm super concerned that we have a room full of staff and a bunch of staff on a meeting saying the board does not support them and that they're being concerned about their jobs. Have we had a discussion about that yet in this budget?
We haven't,
process?
and since that it's our posted under public comment that we don't respond to that, I want to have the budget conversation and not respond to public comment, just in keeping that spirit. in
Yeah, I
which-
don't want to respond to any
here.
particular public comment, but I'm just personally, as a board member, always supportive of our staff.
Of course.
I've never seen us coming into budget discussion. I'm just wondering if there's something out there that the board is not aware of that's being discussed.
I'm hoping that maybe we'll understand a little bit more through this presentation. I have similar questions. This is an unusual presentation at this stage in the game.
All right, thank you. I'm just very concerned for our staff, really, at this point.
Troy?
Okay, we're going to go through this budget presentation, and I think some of your questions will be answered as we go throughout this. As everybody knows, our budget increase is going to be fairly large, and we're going to talk about that and even compare with some other towns. So we also hoping, yes, that the Board of Ed will support this budget as presented. So let's go to the next slide. Just to point out, the enrollment is really holding pretty steady from the current year to the next year. We do include tuition kids from Voluntown and Preston in our numbers who pay tuition. We'll talk about that later. We also, though, have to budget to pay tuition to magnet schools. We got 9 kids projected to go to magnet schools, 4 to go to vocational schools. We pay tuition for that. The kids going to technical schools, we do not pay tuition for that. Okay, so that's just a little bit about our enrollment, holding pretty steady. Mr. Salino is going to come up and talk about the elementary school.
Thanks, Troy, and thank you all for having me. As you'd expect, NSCS, we consistently strive to provide our students with the best educational experiences and emotional support. And I think we do it better than anybody. Our school continues to excel in our state assessments. This year, outperforming our DERG and our neighboring schools in the Smarter Balance on all areas in math and science, and all but 2 grade levels in ELA. So I think what we do it well. And that has a lot to say. That success has a lot more to do with the people that we have in place as opposed to the programs that I'm going to be talking about here. It's the people that are doing the heavy lift every single day. I think the programs, we could give or take different ones. I think whatever we implemented, I think we would always be successful because we have that kind of people here in North Stonington. Our big message for this year is really just to stay the course. It's been a very implementation heavy couple of years for us at the elementary school. And the teachers are putting in a lot of work and a lot of time learning a couple of new programs in both ELA and math, new programs for our screeners in ELA and for math as well. So everybody's been working really hard, and I really feel like, and I think a lot of them would agree with me, that we're really on the right course and we're starting to see the gains that we like. We have the right parts in place, all for sure. And I think what our work that moving forward is going to be to really refine and reinforce exactly what we're doing every single day. So last year we added 3 kindergarten paras to our budget. That has paid off, in my mind, huge dividends. We have the ability to have our youngest learners with extra support that they need at the beginning of the year in terms of just learning where to hang your coat up, where the lunchroom is, that kind of stuff. But then as we've kind of moved down the year now, part of that plan, even though we call them kindergarten paras, is they also support our grade 1 students and our grade 1 teachers during the intervention times. And also at other times when our kindergarten students might be at Unified Arts and they don't need support there from a paraprofessional. So we're able to get more support in our KN1s. And what we're seeing is that with that more intensive support, we're really seeing that our tiered support is really hitting that 80% of the kids that we wanted to hit. And hopefully down the road, a few years from now, we're going to see less and less students in grades 2, 3, 4, and 5 who are needing that tier 2 and that tier 3 support. So that's been great. Bridges. So we piloting a new math program this year. It's the Bridges program. All seems to be going well with it. A lot of people are impressed with what they're seeing in terms of results, but the work that they have the students doing. It is a very labor-intensive program in terms of preparation for the teachers. There's a lot that goes with it. It has a very specific number corner program that's part of that, and then an additional whole math lesson that goes with that. So if all continues as planned, we are anticipating in the spring that we'll be coming to the Board of Education to approve adoption of the Bridges program officially. Since this has been a pilot year for us, we actually, all the materials that we received have been free. And at the end of the pilot, they say, if you want to adopt the program, you then have to pay for what we've already given you. Or if you don't want to adopt the program, you just give everything back. So assuming that we are going to be adopting this program, there are a lot of manipulatives and things like that that go with the initial purchase. So it's kind of a heavier outlay than what we're normally used to, but we're able to separate that over this current year's budget and next year's budget. So our mathematics line really hasn't increased at all. But what we'll be doing is, if the board agrees to adopt it, we'll be paying for, half to 2/3 of what we owe them for this current year, and then purchasing what we need to purchase for next year, which would really be mostly consumables and the additional supplies that we have to pay off from this year. So that's pretty much a break even for us. The Desmos Math program that we use in grade 6 and also use at 7 and 8. There's been a little increase with that program. That program was actually been purchased by Amplify. So along with that was an increased cost, and they're also going to be implementing some consumables as part of that program as well, which is actually a benefit. I think there needs to be a little bit more writing in that math program, but that's another reason why that cost is a little bit more. So that math is costing us a little bit more than it did last year. We are going to be implementing our 3rd year of the inter-reading program. And if you remember correctly, we've also done the work with Hilford Literacy as part of our professional development this past year. So this all ties into that. And so we're really going to just be staying the course with that inter-reading program. The cost has gone up a little bit for that. It's marginal, but it is a slight increase. We've tried to pare down on what we actually need. Now that teachers are more familiar with the program, they have a better sense of what they can kind of do without in terms of materials, or what they really do need. But there is a little bit more of a cost for that. And then along with that program is the screener that's called Emira. So the state of Connecticut has really narrowed down. They want students in grades K through 3 to be using one of several different screeners. That's what we have to use. So the Emira was one that I came here and spoke about before. It ticked most of the boxes in all grades K1, 2, and 3. So that's one we decided to go with. It's a computer-based program. So we're just adding it officially to the budget this year. We did purchase it last year, and we're liking a lot of what we're seeing. We don't love it entirely, but so far so good. And they've made some changes to the program, so we're hoping it'll be even a little bit better for next year as a screener. And then our last one is just in science, just renewal of the Savvis Elevate program, which is for grade 5. This is a multi-year license, what we do. So we'll be paying for this year. We have to purchase 6 years of the computer license and 1 year of consumables. And then for the remaining 5 years, it'll just be consumables only. So that science line will return back to what it normally kind of has been. And then just our sustainable technology plan, which Kim and I came up here and spoke to everybody about. It's just something that we really feel is going to help us to maintain those gains that we were able to get from all those COVID grants way back when, and allow us not to really take any step backwards. So if we can keep the sustainable tech plan as part of this, we feel like we'll have a good plan that's going to carry us forward for years to come. I can take questions now or after.
All right, thank you, Mr. Salino. Mrs. Reyes, to talk about Wheeler, please.
So at Wheeler, we continue to focus on quality programming for both schools. In the middle school, we're currently looking at focusing on bringing the 7th and 8th grade identity back instead of being more of a 7th through 12th grade junior high. The last 2 or 3 years, our staff has done an amazing job working on bringing back a 7th and 8th grade team building activities, interdisciplinary units, and focusing on that. This year, we made significant changes, which we talked about earlier, to our SRBI period that allows students more flex time and more opportunities to collaborate with peers and receive more support. We have also added student-led conferences for this spring. This will be new for Wheeler. This spring, the staff is working really hard to prepare students for this reflective experience. To increase engagement in classes, to continue the engagement, we continue to use Desmos, like Rob just said, in both our 7th and 8th grade math classes and STEM scopes for science. Both of these programs rely on yearly subscriptions and the use of Chromebooks for every student. And just wanted to share, we are currently ranked this year 14th in the state as a middle school in US News and World Weekly. To talk a little bit about sports. So our sport teams have been very successful. We have had every middle school sport run so far and plan to have every middle school sport run in the spring as well. So this hasn't been the case the last 2 years. This has to do with participation and the addition of the 6th graders. We have about 5 to 8 6th graders on each team so far. It's going very well. That's allowed us to run each sport and offer each sport each season. Obviously, with that, there is an increase to the sports budget with the coaching stipends, transportation, officials, and supplies. So that is definitely, when you look, there's an increase for next year based on that. And at the high school level. So high school level, we work very hard to reflect each year on our programming and course offerings to fit the needs of all students. We added this year a New England Institute of Technology dual enrollment program that allows students to work towards an associate's degree. So we have 2 students currently in that program. We also continue to work with the Westerly Ed Center and currently are looking to collaborate with CCRI in another dual enrollment program in chemical technology. So we're looking to add that for the spring and then next year. This year, we also added the education pathway to our pathway program that 4 students have joined. Our students are currently right now going over to the elementary school. That's gone really well as well. The pathway programs offer students the full internship their senior year, where they're doing 60 hours at least, which provides them obviously more focus on making a meaningful postgraduate decision. Our varied opportunities in programming, athletic, and extracurricular activities attract our tuition students, which next year, as Troy had said in the beginning, we're looking at about 35 students next year we will have. Talked about this out of our control, the increase in transportation. Definitely you will see that in our athletic budget. Nothing we can do, but that definitely is a large increase. And we firmly believe that it's our offerings and programming that's attracting the tuition students to our Wheeler community, and our current budget allows us to maintain all the quality program to fit the needs of all of our students that we look at each year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Reyes. Mrs. Christensen is going to talk about special services.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share the incredible work being done with our Special Services Department. Every day, our mission is to ensure that every student, regardless of ability, feels seen, supported, and prepared for a fulfilling future. We're here committed to meeting students where they are, helping them grow in confidence, and giving them skills that they need to thrive. Through expanded transition activities and enhanced life skills curriculum, and strengthen in-district behavioral supports, we're creating opportunities that empower students and open doors for their future. So I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about some of our expanded transition activities that we have. You'll see like in the budget, there's a little bit of an increase here, but it's really kind of things that are already in place and we're kind of continuing to expand upon and reaching out to different communities to kind of expand those opportunities with other districts as well. So some of the activities that we've done the Mystic Seaport Initiative that continues to be a powerful hands-on experience where students are connected with history, develop maritime skills, and explore potential career pathways in a supportive and immersive environment. We work, as you can see in the picture here, in the Giving Closet, and this provides students a chance to give back to their community while learning essential vocational skills such as organization, responsibility, and teamwork. Sorting and laundering donated clothing fosters both practical skills and a sense of purpose. We have a new partnership in town, Max Snacks, right down the road, and we're going to start to connect with them, where students can go there and gain some real world job training and structure in a structured setting. We've also expanded our Alley Cats bowling partnership as part of our PE curriculum for students in the alternative education program. This program is more than just an activity. It's an opportunity for students to build confidence, social connections, and teamwork through a fun and inclusive space. We also have some local work study opportunities, ensuring that students have access to hands-on career experiences that match their interests and strengths. And really excitingly, we're expanding our unified opportunities with surrounding districts. This year, we're especially thrilled to participate in the Unified Prom with Griswold, offering the students the chance to build friendships, celebrate, and enjoy meaningful social experiences beyond the classroom. Some things we're also doing at Wheeler is we're going to start enhancing some of our life skills instruction. We're going to look at some more functional life skills, really helping students develop practical skills such as managing a budget, preparing meals, transportation, balancing responsibilities in daily life. We're also going to have some classes around social and communication skills, supporting students to build strong interpersonal relationships, effective communication, and the ability to navigate various social situations. And we're also going to continue college and career readiness, providing opportunities for students to create resumes, practice interviewing, and explore different career paths that align with their unique strengths and aspirations. By integrating these essential life skills into our curriculum, we're equipping students with the tools they need to confidently take the next step into adulthood. And I just wanted to go back because of something I was very passionate about last year and I asked a lot of support for. One of the really positive changes that we've seen this year has been the impact of having a behavior analyst and having registered behavior technicians in our own district. These professionals have made an immeasurable difference with helping students develop emotional regulation, social skills, and behavioral strategies that support their learning and well-being. Thanks to their proactive, individualized support, we've seen a significant reduction in crisis intervention, creating a more positive and stable learning environment for all students. We've worked hard to encourage more para-educators to earn their RBT credentials, strengthening their quality and consistency of student support. Most importantly, students are thriving, staying in their home schools, forming strong connections, and making academic and social progress in ways that were not always possible before. These supports are changing lives. They allow students to feel safe, seen, and supported within our schools, empowering them to reach their full potential. At the heart of all these initiatives, is one but simple, powerful truth. Every student deserves a chance to succeed, whether it's through hands-on career training, meaningful social experiences, life skills instruction, or behavioral support. We're committed to meet the needs of our students in ways that honor their unique strengths and challenges. Excuse me. We're deeply grateful for the board's ongoing support in making these opportunities possible. Thank you for believing in our students, our educators, and the work we do together to create brighter futures. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Christensen. Just to point out a few slides on technology. As you know, our IT director had resigned early on in the year. And right now in the budget, we have Learn coming to help us 4 days a week. They're currently helping us 2 days a week. They have acquired a grant to give us services at a reduced cost over 3 years. So it would cost about $80,000 to have them come in 2 days a week. And that would be the equivalent of 2 days of IT director, could be 40 days of IT director. It's really the same cost and 2 days of technician. It would be nice to have some more tech support for IT here more often. Comparatively, an IT director, if you go with the cost of our past one, would have been over $148,000 with salaries and benefits. In terms of hardware, as you know, Rob and Kim had presented the sustainable technology plan, but just to remind you, we're talking a one-to-one Chromebook program that would be grades 5 to 8 and then 9 to 12. So kids would get new Chromebooks in grades 5, follow them through to grade 8, and then get new ones in grade 9. And as you know, a lot of the instruction now it's needed to have a Chromebook. Interactive whiteboards and teacher laptops are also a part of the plan. All of these, though, in this budget, we've reduced. So we'll still implement the sustainable technology plan just in a slimmer way. And I'll talk to you about how we reduce them later. But we think we could still do that with this current budget. I wanted to address infrastructure. As you know, the age of our infrastructure is old and some are failing. These are the new 4 switches that are at Wheeler that have solved a lot of issues. Internet connectivity, when no internet goes down, we don't have phones in either building. And this is the hub for the elementary school as well. So if this closet goes down, elementary school has no internet. Also, the public address system at Wheeler doesn't work when these go down. And we learned recently 3 of the cameras that we thought were broken are not broken. It was this. Okay, so we also have about a total of equivalent of 30 switches in the whole district, and we have a plan to replace them over 8 years. So budgeting $40,000 a year for infrastructure will allow us to carry out that plan. And it really is a safety issue here, because if you don't have phones, it's hard to continue to have school. We really have to kind of dismiss school or have a backup plan with cell phones. So anyway, a little bit about switches and infrastructure. Facilities, we had this slide or similar slide last time. I put it up here because of the last row on here, the general building services. We had, the last time I presented a draft of the budget to you, and this is actually the real superintendent budget, it was $256,000. The town has agreed to spend up to $100,000 on repairs. So we reduced that number by 100,000. And then we reduced the increase by 100,000. Okay, so thank you for the town for the collaboration. We really appreciate that. So that helped us to reduce our budget. A little bit about facilities. As you know, we've struggled to keep up with everything that needs to be done with maintenance and grounds and cleaning. And we did add a custodian in the middle of the year to help with that. And I have that in the budget at this point to increase a custodian and actually make one of the current custodians a maintenance person by adding 7% to the hourly rate, which is based on their contract. Because we do have maintenance needs and we got to keep up with our maintenance needs. So I think it's a responsible thing to do. We're not putting outsourcing of landscaping into this budget. We don't feel like we can reasonably put that in here at this point, and you'll see later like what's not in there in the budget. First, let's look at what's causing the budget to get large. It is in order. You can see the major areas. Of course, salaries, it just costs more to pay people. A lot of these are contracts. Benefits are going up. Our insurance rate we thought was going up 15%. Luckily, it's only going up 11%, the medical insurance, so that helps us a little bit. Technology is going up, but that's not only the sustainable technology plan, that's also software. Some of the software, which was typically in textbooks or instructional supplies, we moved it because it's more of electronic now, not paper, and it made sense to put it there. So that's why that number goes up. Maintenance cost, we decreased that number because of the town contributing 100,000. And transportation, we got a new contract coming. We'll see what that's like. We're just kind of guessing right now what that increase might be. It may be more. It could be a little less. We'll see. Utilities, have gone up. Athletics, we spent more on athletics. This is really important to have opportunities for kids, right? And I'm really proud that we were able to have middle school sports. And I think we should keep that. We should keep everything. Special ed, yeah, a little bit going up, miscellaneous. So that's a total budget increase right there, 1.4 million. But then you take out the grants for 222,000, right? So you get a total increase of 1.2 million, which is 7.87% increase, right? So Personally, I think it's reasonable, given where we are and the way, what things cost. And I want to point that out to you on the next, well, in a moment, I'll point that out to you. First, I just want to point out that the town does get revenue, ECS money. That happens every year. What's unique to us is the tuition revenue the town gets. And it's projected they're going to get over $500,000 of tuition revenue because we're taking kids from other towns to come to high school here. Okay, so that money we determined and clarified recently that all those dollars stay with the town. And I consider that to be a great example of collaboration between the schools and the town. But I think people should know that our tuition students are likely to bring in over $500,000 to the town that stays with the town. What didn't make the budget? Some of the things that were talked about and requested didn't make the budget. We were trying to prepare a budget that was somewhat responsible, knowing that the increase is going to be large anyway. So we looked at it. We looked at it as an administrative team. I made the final decisions. There was a lot of discussion and some disagreements, but I had to make the final decision on this. And these things did not make the budget. So we trimmed the sustainable technology plan down, and you could see how we did that. Instead of buying 10 interactive whiteboards, we're getting 5. Instead of 16 teacher laptops, some of which remember a decade old, we're only getting 10 next year. All right. So we want to continue with the sustainable technology plan, but at a reduced amount. Chromebooks, fewer. We were thinking 70 per grade level. We're looking at 62 per grade level for grade 5 and grade 9. And then less money budgeted for tech replacements. Some of the software programs, we looked at this. I asked the administrators, what are the most important things to you? And then I used my judgment. I said, okay, well, these things we can't fund, these items that are on this list here. We talked about outsourcing payroll, so we don't have tax liabilities. That's not in this budget. It'll be about $20,000. Also not in the budget is outsourcing landscaping. Yes, we could put this to RFP and actually get people to bid and all that if we were going to do it. But this is based on a couple quotes, and this is the low end. We talked about having a 4th RBT in the budget. Well, we said, no, we're going to do without it because we're doing without it right now. And we're keeping our fingers crossed that that'll stay the case. Also, the 0.5 FTE intervention position, that's the half reading specialist at the elementary school that was added after the pandemic using COVID relief money. That relief money is no longer available. So I didn't feel like it's responsible to put that in the budget. It's nice to have that. It helps people, but we have 2 full-time reading specialists in a school our size. To have 1, 2.5 in this day and age, it's really, you could consider it overstaffed. We don't have the money. It used to be COVID money. I couldn't put that in there. I want to present a budget that makes sense, and there's things that we really need. This is the year the teachers, when they put their budgets together, the administrators ask them, this is not the year to be adding things. This is the year just to tell us what you need. And they did that. So this is an example of that. There's some stipends that were in the teacher's contract that we haven't used, like boys lacrosse, because we have a co-op. So that salary for the coach we haven't used. The middle school cross country, there is 2 stipends, one for boys and girls. We combined it, had a co-ed team, and we think we can just do that next year. We wanted to add middle school track next year, but we couldn't justify putting that in when we're looking at potential other cuts. So I believe these are things that if we put in the budget would have quickly got cut out. So that's what it is. If the board wants to put them back in, I totally support that. Looking at other districts. And these are districts that data was available as of February 10th. No, this is a spreadsheet that the Connecticut Association of School Business Officials, or CASBO, puts out each year. And business managers, superintendents can put in their data, and it's helpful for everybody. And what you have is a bunch of districts that had their data available. Two pieces of data. The first column is the actual increase of the current year. So look at us, we're at 1.79. That's the budget that we're managing this current year. And then the column with the blue numbers is the initial superintendent request. I'm requesting 7.87 tonight. All those other superintendents requesting what you can see. And I thought it'd be helpful just to add the two columns and see where it falls. So if everybody gets the superintendent budget, okay, that's where we fall in comparison to some other towns that some are really close to us, others a little further away. But again, the data was available. It's interesting. I think it's an interesting slide and somewhat helpful. So the board asked me, you asked me for options. Yeah, you asked me to come with options. So that's what I've done. Okay. I'm not suggesting any of these. But if this increase of 7.87 is too big, and I don't think it is, I think it's reasonable. I think it makes sense when you look at this slide. I think it's, yes, of course, we need to fund education. And by the way, like all those tuition kids, if they don't feel like they're coming to get a really good education or Stony, they're not going to come. And that $500,000 going to the town is going to go away. So what could you do if you, if that's too high? Well, you can get it down to 6.54 by cutting summer school, homework club, and middle school sports and 1.2 teachers. You asked me for options. I'm just presenting options. I'm not suggesting any of this. You could also use some non-lapsing funds to pay for other things so you can fund those things so they don't have to be cut. But then you're kicking the can down the road and then you got to fund those things next year, right? So, if you funded $160,000 for non-lapsing, that's about 1%. So you're going to have to add 1% to your budget next year just because of that. Because the things that you'd fund are things that you really need to have. And I'll show you a list of possibilities because you asked me for options. Another option you might want to consider is an early retirement incentive. I don't know. I have no idea. I could talk to the teachers union and say, would anybody be close to wanting to do that? And we could talk about that. I started to research that, how that works. If you want to do that, that could save money. If you have a teacher who took that and you hire a teacher low on the step, you could potentially save $40,000 for one teacher. If you have 2 or 3 teachers and just multiply that, and that could potentially save. If you wanted to spend non-lapsing, what could you spend for a year out of it? Well, you could buy your inter-reading program supplies, and the next year you have to put it back in because it's a mandated program. So you're going to have to do it. The Desmos math program, you can pay for that. We're going to put it back in next year, right? So here's some things. There are some other things I could look, some other options for you if you like, if you really want to fund some things out of non-lapsing. The Savas Science thing, that's a 6-year license. It might make sense to pay for it out of non-lapsing, and then it's good for 6 years. You don't have to put that back in the budget for several years. You can look at sports transportation, lease of equipment, copiers, right? Infrastructure, co-op sports. I mean, we could look at cameras, right? So there's options there, but that totals about what this would total. And it doesn't leave you much if you bought all that. It doesn't leave you much with your non-lapsing, but it does leave you something. It maybe it's somewhere in the middle. I don't know. Thank you.
Thanks, Troy. I think the best way to do this is that I'm just going to sort of start on the side of the room and go through with questions and comments. I would ask that just maybe we only have to hear each question and comment once from each board member to keep this moving. I will say that, and I'll just speak for myself, that as a board member, I probably could look through this and find options on my own. But I look to you as a superintendent to not only provide me with options, but recommendations, because I don't know how to run a school district. So while I appreciate those options, I'm going to be looking to you for the recommendations about what to do this year. With that being said, I'm going to start Patrick, welcome to budget season. Do you have any questions or comments in regards to this budget for Troy or I guess any of the teachers?
I guess I don't understand exactly how the incentive for early retirement would work. I understand that, teachers that have been here a long time make more than new teachers, but what would the incentive be for the teachers that are getting?
I think there's a lot of different possibilities in how early retirement incentives can be put together, and districts have done it very differently. Sometimes it's like, if you agree to retire at the end of the year, we're going to give you so many dollars, basically. It could be that we're able to, we keep you on the health insurance for a certain amount of time. It could be that we keep you on a life insurance policy for a certain amount of time. There's a lot of different options in how you put it together. And I think we would have to, as a board, you'd have to probably decide what those options you wanted to offer are.
I just, in case anyone else hasn't looked at the calendar, this is our last regular board meeting scheduled prior to presenting to the Board of Finance. So we're going to meet at 5:30 on the 12th. Do we? Okay, good. Because I didn't see that earlier on the website. Okay, well then I feel better because that sounds like we would need a lot of information before we could really talk about that. Pat, do you have other? Christine?
I don't have a lot, I promise. On the retirement thing, do you have a deadline of when people just naturally have to let you know of retirement without forcing retirement?
There is no deadline normally, but if they want to start collecting their teacher retirement pension from the state of Connecticut, they have to meet certain deadlines.
Do you have,
But in terms of giving us notice, there's no deadline.
okay, and do you, I don't want to know names or numbers or anything, but do you know of any coming up? Are
I
you
don't.
aware of?
I
Okay.
don't. I'd have to investigate
All right.
that.
Would you say that this budget that you're putting forward right now is, even though I know that athletics is up, but we have those in the contract and those are sports that we have not added. Would you say that this budget right now is not adding anything? It is to operate the school, the programs that we have in place, and to pay all of our teachers exactly as is now. We are not adding anything to the school next year.
No, all right. So that's not exactly the case because we are actually adding a custodial position
Okay.
in the budget. All right. So if you look at the budget chart, and actually we handed one out tonight
Yep.
that shows it over 6 years. So it would be adding that custodial position. But yeah, other than that, and of course, the sustainable technology plan and the infrastructure of technology, which we've been neglecting to do, it's essential to do those things. So yeah, there are some things added, but there are essential things being added. And other than that, yeah, we're looking to support opportunities for kids, like with the middle school sports programming, looking to keep ideally summer school and homework club opportunities for kids.
But I guess what I'm getting at is this is what we need to continue to operate the way we are.
Yes,
That's what I'm trying to get
Yes.
across to everyone is that we are not
yes,
adding middle school sports. We are not adding homework club. We are not adding summer school. We might be adding a custodian. We are adding replacement of technology as we would need. Okay, so I'm just trying to get clear with that.
I agree with
Then
you.
my next question is in the teacher's contract. We didn't add a curriculum coordinator this year, but we did add a director of instruction and learning, which was basically a curriculum director type position for us. In the contract, it says that if we hire a curriculum director, the program supervisor positions will immediately sunset and the stipend for the applicable contract year will be prorated. Have we sunsetted those positions?
We haven't because we feel like we need them.
But in the contract, it says they will be immediately sunsetted by
Yeah, we
contract.
haven't done that because we feel like we need them to maintain the instructional quality and the organization of how we've evolved.
I can
So-
appreciate that, but we need to follow contract
Yeah,
language.
well, that position is still teaching, so they're not a full-time Director of Learning and Instruction.
Okay. I know it's not a huge dollar amount, but it's about $30,000. It might be something to take a look at. That's all I have for now.
I'm not gonna touch base on is that on? The RFP for the bus, how did you come up with that? That's just what you're projecting for the increase? We have till the 21st of February for that, right?
Yeah, that's when they have to hand in their bid.
How confident are you in that number for the increase?
I'm fairly confident in that number.
The electricity, and I don't know if maybe this is Kathy or you, but when we look at the budget, I understand the cost of electricity and I understand the public benefits. Did we take into account that the public benefits are supposed to end April?
I can speak to that. Initially, I thought yes, but as I read more about electricity rates, even if that public benefit goes away, there's no guarantee that the rates are going to go down because Eversource was asking for another increase. So rather than put us, behind the 8 ball to begin with, I left it status quo until the legislature in Connecticut decides what they're going to do with any increases or dropping of the public service. Because you're right, it was supposed to go away in April, or
Right.
is supposed to go away in April.
Right.
But with all the talk on the news about the increase that is going to replace it, I didn't want us to, to decrease it and come back to you later.
Okay. And I think my other question is leased equipment is going from, it was 29,000, it's going up to 49,500. What did we add for leased equipment? Or is that just an
So we
70%?
we
increase?
didn't add anything, but that's looking budget to budget year. And if you were to look at budget to this year's forecast, it would be copacetic. The problem is that a lot of it is our excess print that we've talked about before. So this year's budget, we've overrun extensively. And next year's budget is more in line with this year's forecast.
I think that's all I'm gonna have for now. Lisa?
I guess I'm a little disappointed. I feel a little ambushed. At our last meeting when the budget was 10 point something percent, we did ask you to go back and see what you could do. And not only bring it back to us, but bring it back with some alternatives. But alternatives that you would suggest. I can't imagine that we would ever cut summer school or homework club or middle school sports. That's not a real suggestion. That's saying it's going to be this, or if you want, we can cut out summer school, homework club, middle school sports, and 1.2 teachers. If that's what you want, I'll cut it. That's what I heard. And I just don't appreciate it. We have a lot of work to do here. We don't need to cut key things, but there must be something else to be done.
I'll go last. Brian?
Maybe, there we go. Troy, I'm going to take a different position on this. I think you did show us what the stark reality could be, because of so many other things that are driving this budget, so many things that are automatically in there, that these would be the most likely things on the chopping block. I've seen a lot of budgets. I've seen a lot of tight budgets. I've seen a lot of budget haggling, both here in my time before getting on this board and in my career as an educator. I'm in a school that has a $42 million a year budget, and I know how hard it is to get some budgets passed. And I understand the tough decisions that you have to make in these times. And I understand that what you put in there is something you would not want to do. It is not something that you would relish doing. And I know that you put that out there so we would not be blindsided should it have to come to that. I hope it doesn't have to come to that. And I thank you for being straightforward with us and not leading us down this primrose path to think that, oh, these other little things are going to cover it when they're not, because we have these contractual obligations. We have these outstanding, recurring payments, whether it is electricity or gas or whatever it is that, seems to be going up beyond our control. So I do thank you for taking the time to lay it all out for us. I do not feel blindsided. I am grateful that you showed this to us. Look, I truly believe that we have a great core of teachers here. All three of my kids go to school here. And I can tell you, I would be disheartened to lose any one of them. So I hope that, we can find a way to make sure that that does not become a reality here. And I hope that we can, work to find creative solutions so it doesn't have to go that way. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
So I'm also going to take Brian's tone. I'm worried that you're cutting too much. So I am concerned about the computer hardware cuts, especially after the last presentation of the technology. And so I want to make sure that can you do it with those 10 and the 62? Because if we're moving to testing and homework, especially for the upper grades, are all on computers, I think that it shows an inequity if we do not provide these computers. So to me, that is needs to be there. And I also am concerned that we don't have this RBT or maybe a para or somebody. If that is a need, I would rather see it in there than not have it at all.
So there's a variety of the different things that have already become a piece of our education that I think are incredibly important. Those kindergarten paras that were mentioned. I have a child in kindergarten at the moment, and he adores his para. Talks about her nonstop. It's as important as his teacher in that classroom, and I think that matters. I think that's one of those things that as parents, we want to see our kids coming home and caring about the things that are going on in the classroom, and I think that's a big piece of that. I also have a really hard time with the halftime reading specialist leaving. I think that's direct action to students. And we just watched the person who is behind that 0.5 give a presentation with a group of students to demonstrate amazing things that they're learning in life and moving forward with. And I think that it saddens me to consider losing somebody that passionate. Again, with children in the district, I participate in that middle ground reading club. I use those books. I have those pieces of things and those connections with my kid that are driven by that person, right? It's not a number that we're cutting out of a budget. It's a person who has been dedicated to our school system for a good long time. And I would like to see her continue to be able to do the amazing things that she does here. I would love to see that go back in. I think that we have an amazing school. I think that what we're looking at here, if you look at just the pure numbers, is not something over the top, is not something that we're sitting here going, hey, we're going to build this brand new thing, or we're going to add all of these impressive programs. We have the impressive programs, and in order to keep them, we have to continue to fund them. Then I guess I would be supportive of moving that 0.5 reading specialist back into the budget. And I would like to see us go to the Board of Finance with a budget that fully funds the people that are providing all of the services and the education for our students moving forward. So.
Thanks, Chet. Okay. I'll start with my questions. I think it is worth saying that something that I've learned, I think this year, is that before we fund new positions and new initiatives, we have to look at it through the lens of sustainability, because it's a horrible thing to have to talk about cutting a program, delivering services to our children, or to be cutting a staff person. And I think that I haven't looked at things for the last few years through the lens of sustainability, and I'm going to start doing that because I think it's better for education in the town. Okay, so if we start, Troy, with line 10, extra duty coaching stipends, I appreciate that you've taken a couple out and that you've given us the backup. We just got this tonight, so just taking a quick look at it. You put something that said that you weren't adding in, it was the before school for Preston and Voluntown. It was one of the things you didn't, that's still in here.
We decreased the amount, so it wasn't a full removal, we just decreased it. We cut it.
Okay. And as I'm looking at this, I'm noticing some stuff that we don't have, that we have stipends for. So I appreciate that you got rid of the lacrosse stipends. Has there been a really exhaustive look at this, or are assistant coaches identified as JV coaches? Because I'm looking at a few programs that don't have JV teams.
Yeah, sometimes
I apologize to jump back in, but I actually had a question about that because my
Okay.
understanding was that when we have contractual stipend positions that we can't not fund them. Is that untrue?
Christine, turn on your microphone because I think that this is always helpful when you do
I
this. part.
don't believe we have to budget for them if they're not filled. But if we fill that position, then we would have to,
So we
can't take
have
it out
to,
of the
we have to be
contract.
okay for the idea that we would be able to fund that position should it fill.
Right, but this last budget was supposedly putting all of them in, whether we didn't have them filled, and we shouldn't be doing that. If we don't have that position, we should not be padding for it. We shouldn't be doing that.
Did that answer your question? So this list has been gone through.
Yes, we went through the list with administrative team.
Can you
and
just talk to me
Kathy.
about the lead teacher positions in the elementary school and the middle high school? I don't think I understand. I don't remember why. I thought this was before maybe we had our director.
No,
of
no,
learning.
that's different function.
Okay.
The lead teacher position, we put in, and that was in the last negotiations, we put that in with the teachers
Okay.
union so that they would fill in for an administrator who was absent.
What was the position, Troy, that you added this year at the elementary school?
That's the program supervisor for elementary school special education. And we added that position because there was a need for tasks to be done because our director is now overseeing a BCBA and several RBTs. And to have that position, it makes it a sustainable thing. And as you know, that saved us a lot of money.
Okay, I couldn't find it. I didn't understand what it was labeled as. So you're confident that all the stipends have been removed that we're not using?
Yes.
Okay, I want to speak a little bit to the maintenance line 54. So a couple of times you mentioned that the town agreed to pay up to $100,000 for sort of for I guess repairs. I think that that's maybe not really accurate.
Okay.
So
that was just my understanding. I could be
sure.
wrong.
So they have added $100,000 to their budget because they have to start somewhere, right? And so they looked at what we spent this year, what they believed that they would spend, and that's where they're budgeting. But Lisa's maybe more in tune with this than I am because Lisa sits with Patrick on that committee. But my understanding is this is sort of where they're starting, and we're going to have to figure out and go back and forth, and maybe their number's wrong, and maybe they'll have to adjust it. But I don't believe that it means that we have to be the backup once they hit $100,000. This is about transitioning that piece.
I would love that if this is the case.
And we certainly can get clarity on that. But so I know we're over this year, but given that we're going to do less, I'm not sure why our maintenance number is increasing. So I would like to see that number flat at the very least, I would really like to see it reduced, because when you talk about the reasons why we have overshot our budget this year, we talk about things that we wouldn't be responsible for fixing next year. So I'd really like to, I think my request would be that I'd like to see that number decrease to be really more in line with what we're going to be responsible for, because I think that that's our responsibility here.
What's our actual this year on that line item? Do we know?
It's in your projection, I think.
Okay.
It's 100 and general building services line 68 is $177,508 for the forecast.
177.
Yeah, 177. So some of those things, we can certainly look at at that line. But in that line are a lot of, contracts that we have, like preventative maintenance contracts, and a lot of other things. So we really would have to clarify with the town, what is it that are they going to pay for those contracts, or is it just
Well-
repairs and all
Well,
that?
we know they're not paying for contracts.
Okay.
We're looking at, we're leasing a building, and what are the things that the landlord would pay for in that building is what the capital's been talking about. So
Right.
the things that we've repaired this year that possibly would have fallen on the town side, I think would be the things we would maybe back out this year, repairs to HVAC.
Okay.
Those
can
kinds of,
certainly- we
not
can-
contracts.
We can
I
certainly
don't
go
know.
through and look at that, and maybe we can trim those lines down based on what you're
Help us a
saying.
little bit.
So the $100,000 will be in the Board of Selectmen's budget this year. Their maintenance, it'll increase by the $100,000. But ours will just decrease by the $100,000 like you project, but I would not say that we would not absorb anything beyond that at this point.
Okay, so what I have decreased the budget by $100,000 exactly.
Yes.
That's at this point, I haven't decreased it further at this point.
But you decreased it based on an increase that you would put in initially, not based on
Right.
this year's number.
That's right. That's right.
So that's
Correct.
what I'm
Oh, I see
saying.
what
I
you're saying,
appreciate
Bob.
that you backed out the
Gotcha.
100, but you'd already bumped it up a bunch. So
Right,
I'd like
because-
to look at this year's number and say, okay,
Well,
we're not going to be responsible for that.
This year's budgeted number,
You could look at this year's actuals. That's fine.
actual, yeah.
Yeah, if we
That's-
looked at this year's
we're good.
forecast, the 177 and backed off any repairs, nothing that was a contract, whatever, you could come up with the number. My only concern, we laid everything out of what we thought it would be 260,000 for the year. We backed it down to 160,000. If is the town willing to pick up any repairs over that 100,000? That's my question.
Possibly.
Possibly.
Well, there's going to be a maintenance agreement between the town and the school district, which was accepted by the capital committee, but next it needs to go to the Board of Selectmen and then back to us before it's final. So in that case, it's my understanding with the maintenance agreement, if we needed something fixed beyond that, what you do is you, I don't know, you submit something to the committee, and then it would be an appropriation.
So do we pull it out now? Or do we get clarity on it from the town of who's going to take that extra cost, if there is that extra cost? It would have to be pre-approved.
Case by case.
So because this has been so widely discussed and there's a great focus on this. We have a committee that was formed to do it. The Board of Finance is well aware, the Board of Selectmen is well aware, and it's a new thing that we're doing. And so I think there's going to be a lot of grace because I think the town's not really going to know how much money it actually costs. And then I think sometimes we're going to say, hey, can you fix that? And they're going to say, no, that's for you to fix. And then we're going to go back and forth a bit and then we'll figure it out. And I think at the end of next year, we'll probably have a really accurate number. We're not going to have one this year. So my concern is if we think we're padded a bit, if we back that out, we're going to the Board of Finance saying, hey, look, we've backed out some money here. We're not sure where this is going to land, and they're going to understand that. But I think if we leave it in, it looks weird. We're doing less and asking for more. So that's kind of a weird place to be. And I'd really like to see that number go down before we start talking about bringing numbers down that require us to cut programming. This seems like a no-brainer to me. So anyway, that's just my thought on
Could
it.
I just add, for the 260,000 that we budgeted, we actually went line by line, what would we spend on this, this, this? So perhaps it would be helpful if Randy, Troy, myself sat with somebody from the town to say, okay, here's what we know we're gonna spend next year, this 260,000, this would go to you, this would stay with us.
I think Randy and Alan have sat down, haven't they?
I don't know that they've gone through the budget, no. I think they've talked, right, line by line.
I would just want to have enough, I would just want to have enough in the budget for things that were identified, such
Right.
as the security cameras that need to be replaced and
Yep.
other things.
Yep.
Randy had a list that we would be responsible for and that's going to cost some money. So I wouldn't want to back out so much that we wouldn't.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm trying to match this full year forecast and budget line items with this that's been presented to us, and it seems like some things are missing, or did you just shrink it down a little bit?
Are you looking at today?
Like the one that was presented today, for example, did you just consult, like maintenance, line 54, right? General building and services.
Yes, I combined.
Supplies, athletic
Right.
field,
Yeah.
so all those are sort of in here now, but I just don't really know
Yes.
where, right?
Yeah, correct. Well, what we did was we had repairs for the elementary school, repairs for the middle school, high school. We put it all into general services, general building.
So all of those now are just general building
Right,
services,
right.
including instructional equipment. So repairs are all general building
Right,
services now.
if they're related to the building. Now, if they were repairing I don't know, something, a whiteboard or something, it wouldn't be in there. That's in instructional repairs, which is not part of it. General building services is only facilities.
So like supplies for athletic fields, where did those go now?
There's field site preparation.
Okay, so what we're being presented for budget is different than the reports we're getting currently for forecast.
No, other than combining the repairs for because when you looked at repairs for elementary school, repairs for middle school, and then general building repairs, there was no rhyme or reason. Yes, they put some elementary to elementary, some to middle school, and then half of elementary and middle school would go to general building repairs. So rather than nickel and dime it, let's put all three of them in general building and compare apples to apples is what I did.
Okay, so like, so again, like supplies athletic fields is now just under athletics fields.
Or yeah. I think
Or
it's Field
supplies.
site preparation.
Is it just field,
Just
number
fields.
73?
Okay. All right. It's just hard for me to do a comparison to forecast versus what we're budgeting if they're in different lines now or different categories. Am I the only one that's confused by that?
No, I am confused as well. So you're saying like line item 68 does not correspond to this 68. Yes, and I'm there with you.
Yeah.
I just, to see what we forecasted, where we were over with all the, because I guess in my mind, I'm like, this current budget we're in is, which is kind of driving some of our problem right now. So I'm tending to say, knowing if we're getting accurate moving forward, my hope would be all things being equal, the ask next year won't be as large. How do we help? We may have to look to the non-lapsing to help offset some of the errors that were made this year to get us in a reasonable ask. And it's hard to do that when I'm looking at the forecast number versus, I don't know, maybe I'm not making sense. but
No,
like if
I think you are. Kathy, can you expand
I can
our view?
expand, I had it expanded and then I was asked to
Right, because it could feel a little crazy,
Yeah,
right?
'cause it
But I
does-
think that might
I
be
can
helpful.
absolutely, I
Is it-
can expand all you want.
Or just match the numbers.
Just match the numbers.
Yeah.
Like if
Yep.
Even if you just took like, hey,
Yeah.
numbers 60 through 67 are condensed into 60.
got it. Yeah.
Even
Got
even
it.
if we had
Thank
that, I think
you.
it would be good. It's just the crossover.
Yep.
That would be great.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because that way we can see what the one-off is this year's error and then and maybe accommodate with, we have to buy some technologies this year, non-lapsing. We just have to, because I don't think we can go forward with this, but I don't think this is a bad budget. I think it's a super solid, accurate, excellent budget. We just need to figure out how we're going to fund it.
Right.
Yep.
So when I see in custodial supplies that $81,000, does that include the cameras that Randy's asking for?
It does not include the.
Where do
cameras.
the cameras go in here?
They are in the general, I believe they're in the general building services.
Okay.
We had them in there initially.
Can we, so that would be something, right? Because I mean, I know that cameras aren't a one-time purchase, but it seems when he was talking that the cameras in general, we need a number of them right now. And it doesn't seem like that would, moving forward, we would need to do
Right.
that many at a time. Is that something we can back out of the budget? Because it's sort of like a one-time purchase
Yep.
and move that to something that we might pull out of non-lapsing, because then it lowers that number, but it still ensures that he gets the thing. Because Christine's right.
Yeah.
Like it or not, we need this stuff.
Right.
We've just got to find a way to fund it. And I mean, maybe I'll be the unpopular voice here, but 7.87 is never getting us. We're never going anywhere with that. And if you look at the history of our budgets, it's clear we're not going anywhere with that. And so we've got to figure out a way to get as much as we can and get that number down. So that's why for me, any cuts that we can make to things like general building services would be really important. And then moving on to technology, equipment. So we're up $60,000. Is that, Troy, is that your technology plan that I'm looking at here? I know that that's different than your computer and network repairs.
Right, what line are you on?
64 and then 66.
The 64 would be the whiteboards,
The Chromebooks,
right,
the
Chromebooks,
teacher
the teachers,
laptops.
Yes.
So one of the things I think jumped out at most of us during that tech presentation was the cost of the individual teacher laptops. I think all of us went, oh my goodness. And I think even Rob and Kim said, yeah, that those numbers seemed high. Has anything, because teachers need computers, has anything been done to find something at a more reasonable rate so we can get more bang for our buck with those?
We did look at that and determined though that really is the cost when you add the insurance for those. I can double check. That's what I'm running. Any other administrators remember that conversation?
Can I ask a question
No?
about?
Okay, we can take a look at it again. I'm not 100% on that.
Troy, I talked with Learn on that one.
Yeah, right.
And they did seem to think that we were in the ballpark. They did say, you might be able to kind of find something that was a couple $100s cheaper, but it has to actually do with the security and the firewalls that are needed, that are on the machines. It was pretty technical. I sat with them for quite a while, but I'm happy to have them, summarize that for the board too, to say kind of why that's a kind of inflated number.
Yeah, thank you, Kim.
I totally believe you. I just wanted to circle back on that because it was a question that we all had.
Yep.
Well, yeah, it would have to be compatible with a docking station. Right. So
But keep in mind this 116,000 is a reduction of what is in our technology plan because it's not 8 whiteboards, it's 5. And
Right.
It's not 16, it's 10.
But of course, if we could get more,
Right, that would be
right, with that
lovely.
same dollar, because we want to make sure that teachers have
Yes.
computers and whiteboards and that kids have their one-to-one devices for sure.
Can we stay on that technology piece for a quick second?
Yeah.
I just have.
Go for it.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I know it's your.
No, I want, go.
So the IT director, what we were paying the IT director, I think we realized after the fact is probably higher paid than what needs to be in that position. I don't know if we've done an analysis of others in other areas. Ours seemed to be a little bit high at the time. I'm wondering if we had looked at or considered, since we're only getting Learn 2 days a week, seems lean to me. Have we considered a part-time IT position?
So, Learn has written a grant, and they've received a grant to give us services for a reduced rate. And we're not paying benefits to Learn people. And Learn, remember, they have multiple people with different expertise that have come in here. And it helped us. We have progressed with technology over the last 3 months, more than we have in the last 2 years. And I can see a lot of teachers shaking their head, yes, on that, because of Learn and their expertise.
And I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that we aren't, because we came from where we came from and now we're in Learn, that we're not ruling out all other options, because we don't have to go back to what we had. But are we looking at, have we looked at what in-house might look like, what the cost would be? Part-time
Yes.
wouldn't require benefits.
We have researched it, and the spreadsheet that I mentioned for the percentages increase also has tabs for IT salaries. And 116 is a really low salary for an IT director, and I don't.
For a full-time IT
For a
director.
full-time IT director in this day and age. And, I know the people at Learn make a lot more money than that, but they're able to give us that service because they're an education support center. That's what they do.
And how long is that grant good for?
It's good for 3 years.
Are they here 4 days? or
I was going to say that I was just going to double check on that, because in the presentation, it said 2 days for the IT director, 2 days for the tech support. But you also made a comment that it could also be 4 days for an IT director, because it's the same cost in that process of who would be there, or something similar to that
Yeah,
when you're
that's
giving
correct.
that.
Yeah, we currently pay $490 a day, no matter who comes.
And so right now that budget is for 4 days a week.
4 days a week.
Not 2 days a week.
That's correct. Right now, we're paying for 2 days a week currently, but what I'm proposing is we can go up to 4 days a week to make sure that teachers have the IT support that they need.
And that 80,000 is budgeted with the grant from
Yes,
Learn. So
that's
that is the total cost with the grant for the 3 years for 4 days a week.
Well, it's for each year, it would be 80,000.
Right. Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Sorry. And then on the 5th day, you do have in-house, correct? You have Greg, who's
We have an IT coordinator that's here 5 days a week.
Okay.
And it on site, and it's more than saying what Preston has. Preston just has Learn come in a couple days. a
and
week.
is-
They don't have an in-house person.
And is that enough? Do you think that that is enough?
If you look at what happened over the last couple months with technology and the merger of our emails and the switch installation and so many other things, cameras now can be viewed on one screen. And that is just a recent development because we have 3 different camera systems. It's just endless what they've been able to accomplish with the expertise. So I'm 100% behind that decision.
Has all of our purchased equipment now been installed and being used? Do we have anything sitting around in boxes at this point?
We do have a few cameras sitting around in boxes that will only be able to be installed in this building because of the camera system. You have to buy the specific camera for the system. So we do have a few here. In fact, I just got a count of how many we really need just today, just going around and making sure. And there are 3 of them that we thought were damaged that aren't damaged anymore. They're not working because we have the new switches.
Just about the camera systems and having 3 different ones. I don't know how or why that came about. I can only imagine how infuriating it might be for someone who needs to look at cameras regularly to have to keep going out of one and into another. And if you have to sign in each time, it creates more lags in workflow than anything. Is there any way to, over time, get it so we're running off of a single system or multi-server system that makes that a little bit easier to do?
Yeah, I think there are some ways. In the meantime, recently figured out a way to have the viewing be easier. I think Mr. Salino maybe was already shared this information. Ms. Reyes, I'm not sure you got that message yet, but this is the expertise of Lauren coming in and making things better pretty quickly. It's, you know, to take down all three systems and start fresh would be a huge, expensive project. But I think there might be small ways we can do things like as we replace, we can go more towards a certain system and eventually get there. And I do think we need to have a plan for that over time. We just got to put that together.
So moving on to athletics, I think that we understand that there's an increase in transportation for middle school sports because now that we're allowing sixth graders, we're fielding more teams. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Can you talk about the $27,000 increase in high school sports transportation?
I think if we were to look at the forecast for transportation compared to next year's budget, we are over. This year, we're over budget significantly in sports transportation.
So it's just a correction?
Yeah, it's a correction. And then
Okay.
next year, we know we're going to have a 25% increase on top of that correction. So that's
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
As the schools teams become more successful, they play in more tournament games, which means it adds unanticipated games to a season.
And I don't know if that's what we're looking at here, but I
But
just
it
wondered, but that makes a
could
lot
be
of sense that
part
we're
of the-
correcting for where we didn't hit the mark last year. So supplies, dues, rentals, all others. So that's going up roughly $14,000. Is that the same thing or has something changed for us? Line 74.
same thing.
Okay. That's helpful. Professional services, line 92, up 35,000.
Again, if you, so what's in the, if you looked at this year, it's more in line because we're spending more than 15,000, more than what we budgeted for
Okay.
this year. And it's a lot of it is working with Tyler Technologies and getting training on our accounting systems for the new folks and myself. So that's what's in that number.
Okay, thank you.
And Steph, I think that kind of goes back to, while those are huge jump ups this year because we're correcting for last year, then if we can fund some of these other things, then hopefully next year we can bring them back into the budget because we've got an accurate forecast here.
1,000%.
To the best of our ability. Yeah.
So if we, and I don't know if we want to look at this now, or since we have that meeting on the 26th, we want to give Troy the instruction that we want him to come back to us with recommendations. Because we can sit here and look through this. He gave us options for things we could pay for out of the non-lapsing account. Right now, I think your last report said we have about $192,000 uncommitted in our non-lapsing account. And so the total that Troy gave us options for is 207. So I don't know, do we want to talk about backing that stuff out and putting it in our non-lapsing account, or do we want to look to Troy to give us a recommendation? Including maybe
think-
some other one-time purchases like the cameras?
I was gonna say, I think the cameras piece is one that I would like to see a real number on, see how that affects and see where that runs, because I think I would happily vote that into a non-lapsing account for the moment to be able to push through what, again, I think is a solid budget. And so like, that would be something to come out that wouldn't be a problem in my mind to put into non-lapsing. I dislike the idea of filling budget holes from non-lapsing, just because all it does is build those into next year. But something like those cameras eliminates that as an issue. I think that's one of those things where we can say this is one time, we're going to purchase these cameras. Now we're on par. And what we need to make sure that we're doing is planning in the future for, hey, maybe we need to put aside or figure out how we're going to replace a couple of cameras consistently to keep that on track. So
with that, I guess as I'm looking at this last page, my last note here is when we're looking at sort of making cuts that feel really uncomfortable, I'm uncomfortable with the idea of adding a new janitor position in a year that we're talking about making cuts potentially to programs. And I appreciate that, you know, Randy's just trying to get the job done that he's got, and it's tricky. But I don't think that I'm comfortable this year adding a position, especially when I read that piece that Randy added in, and then Troy, that you talk about sort of that didn't make the cut, about the vision potentially being that we start outsourcing some landscaping. And so what I don't want to happen is that we hire a staff, but then it's not in line with our vision for the future. And then we have to lay off someone when we realize that vision in the future. I'd like to just stick in a holding pattern. And again, that takes some money out of the budget without really impacting what we're currently doing. And then so what do we want to do about asking Troy? How do we want to proceed tonight? What do we want to ask Troy to do?
Well, I think we need to get into an agreement that we realize some of these line items are short this year. We're bringing them back up. Knowing, and to agree with what you're saying, Chet, we don't typically want to use the non-lapsing, but we might have to this year because we're bringing these other line items up with the understanding that our technology goes back in. Perhaps we could go through the items that Troy was suggesting from non-lapsing, because a lot of them, personally, I don't agree with. Reading programs, math programs, that all needs to stay in the budget. Computer equipment, I'm okay with, only because maybe it's what I know, it's what we've always done.
We've always had that there.
As transportation, we're always going to have transportation that needs to stay in the budget. But I think if we do need computers, we do need the technology. But if we can get the other line items in the right place this year, then we can bring that back in next year. Maybe we can fund it through non-lapsing this year, is my personal opinion.
And I apologize. I turned off my front page where I'd had my notes previously. But I was curious, the summer school, I'm assuming that what we're talking about is regular ed summer school.
That's
Because special ed summer school is required.
You
And
have
so what
to,
we're
right.
talking about, and we only added regular ed summer
right.
school during COVID.
Yep, you're right.
So this was a COVID program that got added in
Yep.
because of the fact that regular ed students were missing out on a variety of things. And that, in my mind, may be a space that we could move away from. I think that's one of those things where we're providing summer school for regular. I personally would prefer to look into the process of using our before and after school club as a filler for people who need that care during the summertime, as opposed to having it be a budgeted item for regular ed students in a system because we put it in COVID and it's still there. And I'm speaking off the cuff here, and I would like to know what number of students are using that, how are they utilizing it, what is it like. There's more information that I would want before I would just say, hey, this is a program that I think could be taken off. But I do feel like it's one of those that it got added in for a specific reason, and having it get taken off for another specific reason, like budgetary constraints, is not going to totally raise my hackles. So
I agree. And, and that's the same with the part-time reading. As much as we would love to have that, the discussion on doing that during COVID was, the hope is that those kids are going to get back up to speed after COVID and get returned into school, that we wouldn't need to continue to support that position long-term, which is why it was put into the grant money, because they were hoping and obviously the admins could tell us if our reading is developing and getting back up to where they're supposed to be.
Oh,
I would definitely be in favor of using our non-lapsing account for things that will not cause a hole in next year's budget, such as the computers and the security cameras. I would be good with that. The summer school, Chet, I would want the information too, rather than just cutting it. I want to make sure it wasn't identified as a real need. And I just want to be clear, what I said before. I do not want to cut homework club. I don't want to cut middle school sports and all that. And I was a little upset about that, because that was what the option that we were given. And in the last half hour, we've been able to move away from that, where that's not going to be a consideration. And so I would have liked to have had that talk prior. I'm always in support of the school budget, and I wish we could fund 10%. I wish we could fund 7.87. And before I sat in this seat. I'd be out there saying, we need this, we're gonna advocate for this, I'm doing this. Well, here, my job is to make sure that the best budget we can put together gets passed. And so that is where I'm coming from, and that I'm not coming from a space where I don't support the things that we need in the budget. I'm coming for a space where I want to get the very best budget forward that will pass.
And can I just ask really quick too, going back to my initial question before we started?
I want to return to that in just 1 second. I want to sort of do that last.
Okay. thank you.
So I am with all of you in terms of best practice with the non-lapsing account. I don't want to use it for things that we purchase over and over and over again, because it leaves us with a hole. And last year we were so proud that finally we got all that stuff out of the non-lapsing account and put it in our actual budget. And then here we are again. And so I don't like it, but how I am feeling about this is we have a problem from last year that we have to fix now, and that's resulting in 7.87. And if I thought that that was going to pass through the Board of Finance and then pass through the town, I would be all in favor of it. But I can't imagine that we can look the Board of Finance in the face and say, we have this pool of money that we don't want to use because it will create a hole in next year's budget. And instead, we want you to say that you agree to this budget. I think that that's not going to work, because I think if you guys remember back to COVID, the Board of Finance had to make the decision to balance the budget using the undesignated fund, which was sort of they looked at it sort of as their equivalent to the non-lapsing. It left a hole in the budget. It was problematic, but the budget was problematic. And that was the only way that they could do it. And so I don't like it. I don't want us to use the non-lapsing like that. But I think that we are in a situation that's unfortunate. And I think we just have to sort of say, this is maybe the unintended consequence to our unfortunate situation. And so I can't imagine that we can go to them with that number. And I'm going to be a no vote at that number, because I believe that there are things that we can do. So before we have to start having conversations, I don't want to suggest to the Board of Finance a budget that has us cutting positions or programs to students. I think that that's unacceptable. And I think if the Board of Finance wants to say we have to cut further, then we have an opportunity to have the community weigh in at that point, understanding what the consequence would be. I think that we should do the best that we can to give them a budget that's potentially palatable to people without having to cut that stuff. And so I think we have this pool of money, and we're going to have to think about it, but that's just my position.
I guess I would only counter on the fact that, like, I mean, we had the smallest budget increase in probably close to the state of Connecticut last year. It was an error. However, the thing is that when we're talking about things like the situation we're in is what's the rate of inflation, the cost of utilities, the cost of labor at the moment, the cost of all of these different things is what's driving our budget to move up. I mean, the overall state average for teacher salaries going up has been significant because our labor market is creating that. So we need to then be able to respond with that. And I think that the idea of coming in with a budget that matches that is, in my mind, acceptable. I guess I would just say that I have a hard time looking at it going, no, we have to keep cutting. We have to keep cutting. We have to keep cutting because nobody's going to vote for it. But we also have never come to the town with a budget like this saying, hey, we're in this situation. This is what we're doing. This is what we have.
Right.
And
That,
so,
I don't think that that's true in the history of budgets. And I think Lisa could speak to that too. Chet, we put forward a 1.79% budget, knowing well, not all of them, but most of the things that you're talking about that are driving our numbers this year, right? That $150,000 that we knew was going to come to the teachers this year, plus their contractual increase. We knew that our transportation contract was going to have to be rebid this year. We were reading the tea leaves in terms of inflation as well as electricity costs. All of that stuff we knew about. The problem is that we put forward a budget that was too small last year because we didn't understand what was really in those line items. And so this year we have to correct for that. So in addition to having to do all of those things that we knew about, we also have to correct. And so that's the quote unquote situation that we're in. And then I think if we layer on top of it, that all of this is played out in a way that shows us absorbing some significant costs and still projecting to end our year with $100,000. And so I think people are looking at us saying, what are you guys really doing over there? Because they don't have line item control over our budget, right? Like the municipal budget. So what's really happening? And so I think that we've eroded a little bit of confidence in our ability to budget appropriately. And so I think that we have to win back that confidence. But I think that we have to fix some stuff in addition to the stuff that we can't help. And so that is the situation that we're in. And I think that that's how we got there. So we just, I think, have to face it and we have to fix it. And we have to do our best to protect everything that we offer our kids, including staff, which I think brings us to something that we probably have to talk about, Troy. I think it's safe to say that it feels a little unprecedented that at the second conversation of budgets, we have our only public comment are not from people that necessarily live in town, but are people that work in our district. I don't know where anyone has gotten the idea that the Board of Education doesn't support educators. Can you maybe talk a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So on the slide where it talks about the 1.2 staff cut, because you asked me to come for options, and I didn't want anybody to hear about something at a public meeting without me giving them a heads up. So I had some conversations with people, giving them a heads up that their position could possibly be talked about at the board. And we have a high budget. I don't know where it's going to go, but because you asked me for options, I wanted to be prepared to discuss options and do what you asked. So I talked to some people, giving them the heads up. So that's why probably, and I met with the teachers union and the representatives, and I shared with them some of the budget slides and how, yes, and there's some things that aren't going to make the budget. And because that is a responsible thing to do, given where we are with the budget and trying to earn the confidence back, all of that, the whole picture. And I think the fact that we can say, here's some things that were requested that we wanted in the budget, we didn't put in the budget because we realize this is not the year to add. I think it's a responsible thing to do. I help it. I think it goes a long way to build trust back.
May I ask a quick question on that? So just so I'm clear, so what you're saying is by having the discussion about the thing you showed us about possibly cutting summer school and homework club, that got our staff concerned that the board doesn't support the staff. And it seems like a very big swing.
I think
of
the
where we
teachers,
used to
I
be
I
to,
think the teachers are here not because they feel like the board doesn't support them, but because they're being proactive and they want to make sure that you know that it's important to them to maintain our staffing and what we need to teach the kids. And so they're here at a proactive move, and I really appreciate their support, them being here.
I know as a teacher, I'm recommended to attend all of my Board of Education meetings during budget season to come up, advocate for teaching positions and to make certain that the Board of Ed sees the presence of teachers in the room. And I think that that's wonderful that our teachers are willing to come out and spend their time on
I do
that.
too, but didn't this feel a little bit different to you than in years past?
It certainly
just-
feels
something
different to
felt
me.
Different.
I don't think we've ever come into this portion of the budget in my time here with this sort of an increase and with the consideration of staffing cuts being a piece of that. And so I guess I think that piece of it automatically will get a teaching staff out to a Board of Education meeting to be able to just make sure that everybody remembers that we're talking about people when we're sitting up here and not just numbers.
I think that's why it's really important that we get a recommendation from Troy and not options. I think that as a board member, I really do look to you to say, here's what I need. And to do this, we need this. And this is what I recommend.
Yeah, I'm getting actually a lot of mixed messages from the board about where to go with a recommendation on this, and I'm not really comfortable doing that. If the board decides to give me a percent, because we keep talking about the 7.87 isn't going to fly. All right, well, what is going to fly? Give me a number, then I'll give you a recommendation.
I don't think we can sit here and say a number that's going to get passed, but we can sit here and talk about the maintenance line item that has increased even though the town has taken it over. I think we can talk about hiring a custodian when we're talking about outsourcing down the line. I think we can talk about other things. And I also find it very disheartening that we have to have teachers in here talking about that they don't want their positions cut. We would never want to be in that position. We absolutely love our teachers. We love our communities and we love our school. That's not our intent. We need to look at the items like the maintenance, like the custodian, like, is there possible wiggle room on the electricity? The items that we can control are the items that we need to look at.
Yeah, and I think we've already looked, we'll look again. I don't think you're gonna find the savings that you're hoping to find in those items. And that's why we're being totally honest and transparent with people about what our situation is. Because, and if if you're saying, I mean, maybe we can get it down to 6.5 or something by doing some of the things you're saying. But if you want to go lower than that, it's going to be staff positions.
But maybe make a recommend. So you showed us options for the non-lapsing. Maybe make some recommendations for the non-lapsing so that we understand like how this all looks. And I appreciate that you're saying, give me a number, but when the Board of Finance says, give us this number, we always respond and say, hey, we can't, like, we're giving you the best budget for the education of the students in North Stonington. We can't do that with a number. I think we're saying the same thing to you, Troy. We can't give you a number, but we need your recommendation as the leader of our district and not options.
I can definitely give you a recommendation, but looking at some of the things that you pointed out and trimming back and have teachers not have their trash emptied some days or the floors swept. And I can do that. Because that may be the impact of some of what you're asking me to do. I can do that. I can come back to you, but the number is not going to be much lower than it is now. I'm recommending 7.87. That's my recommendation.
You also gave options about staff cuts versus non-lapsing purchases. And the numbers look about the same.
So Troy, would it be helpful to you if we did give some suggestions of the hard items that we thought maybe we'd be comfortable with putting into non-lapsing? So that you didn't have to guess at what those items would be. Would that, and I get where you're
that could be
going, like
helpful.
to give a percentage, but
Sure.
if those, instead of you saying, well, here's my ideas, and then having us say, nope, not those ideas. I mean, would that be something that if we did actually take, some time here to say, okay, I think we're all on board with technology. What can we pull out and put in non-lapsing, or what, I think the board might want to also say, how much of that non-lapsing are we willing to spend? Knowing how much is in there, what are we willing to spend? And then Troy can look to see what his concrete items are to put there.
That would be helpful.
All right, so I just want to support you, Troy, and what would help you move the needle and what would help us come to agreement, if possible.
I also want to remind everyone of when we had to come to the Board of Finance and they asked us for alternate plans. And I think it was very effective to put it to a staff position to say, this is the budget that the superintendent is presenting at this percentage. And if you want it lower, here are the cuts that have to be made. And I think that that was very effective. It was there because we don't want that. So I just want to keep that in mind, that I think I agree that I think this percentage is the percentage. And so maybe the only alternative is to say, okay, then if you don't want that 7% or whatever it is, then these are the ramifications. And I think you've done that. But I maybe even more so of like what programmatic thing is being cut. Because I think that, like I said, which child's affected, what population is affected. Because I agree, I'm worried that I don't want to cut too much more. And I have to take it back to when we were asked to cut and we cut even more, that percentage increase is so much greater. And so I think we just really need to be, I've said it in the last meeting, I think that we need to go forward with what we have and kind of react, because they're going to ask for a cut anyway. I mean, I agree that I think there are a few places, but I don't know if it's going to drop it down too much more. Like,
What is our total number in non-lapsing at the moment? 194. And that's already including all of the encumbered expenses, everything that's committed to anywhere. I wouldn't want at the moment, when we're still trying to figure out for certain whether or not our maintenance pieces of things are truly going to be 100% sent over in different ways and all of these other things, for us to end up with a non-lapsing under 100,000. That would be, I just to put numbers out there, because I think that that's important to be in play. And I'll be the first one to throw it out there. I don't want our non-lapsing under 100,000. I would be entirely good with moving technology pieces. I'm also entirely good with taking a look at that maintenance number and seeing if there truly is a place where we can drop that down. Again, I don't, it's going to take us to like 6.5 maybe, right? Like it's not like we're going to end up at a 3% increase. But if we can look at those things, I would be, I'm personally, I would vote for anything that would keep our non-lapsing above 100,000. Just in case we run into something where it's an emergency, we need to spend money. Getting an appropriation from the town is not going to be a super fast thing because we have to do this, and we just need to have money on hand that we throw at it. I want to be able to have that non-lapsing available for that moment. So 100,000, I think if we have 100,000, I feel safe with that. I think that down to that, if we have technology things, the cameras, I love the cameras idea. I think we throw the cameras in there. We put it on non-lapsing. We pull it out of the budget. It's a one-time thing. It's going to last us, hopefully, well, if they're waterproof this time, I guess, for longer than they did last time. And I guess I would entertain the idea of the custodian. I don't know what that is. Again, like that's one of those things where we're looking at a maintenance person coming out, or adding a maintenance person truly, and then replacing that maintenance person with a new custodian, right? So it's the maintenance piece that's really what the issue is that we need added people with, because we currently have this custodian in play who's doing what is being done. And what we're doing is adding the maintenance aspect to that custodian. Is that correct?
And then adding a custodian.
And then we're replacing that custodian who's out.
Right.
So at the moment, what we really have that we're lacking is maintenance.
Yes. Because
what we've done is taken a custodian, move them to maintenance, and then replace the custodian. So what we don't have enough of right now is maintenance, is what's being said.
It's actually both, but yes.
It's both.
But
okay.
Yes, but it's because the maintenance workers also do custodial work. So it's just getting the job done.
But what we need is another body then.
That's correct.
In that department.
That's what I'm.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out where it is, where things aren't getting done that we needed to move somebody into a position, I guess. So like if it's a situation of like branches aren't getting trimmed outside, then that to me is a maintenance. Or if it's like I guess I'm just trying to figure out where the need is. Well, that's custodial staff. So that's if we don't replace the custodian, but we have the maintenance person, right? So I guess I'm just trying to figure that piece out.
So yes, in fact, in the last negotiations with the custodian maintenance staff, we made it so everybody can do everything. Everybody can empty trash, everybody can paint, everybody can use a weed whacker, etc.
All right. At a minimum, I'm game for looking at a lowering of the maintenance aspect of things and going down to 100,000 and non-lapsing if we can find technology pieces that are generally considered one-time purchases. I think that's where I would stand at the moment. And otherwise, I feel like the things we're doing what we're currently doing, right? I mean, that technology sustainability plan is truly necessary. Like we need to not get further behind than we already are. It's not like we're doing what we're supposed to do and we're going to take a break for a year. We haven't been doing what we're supposed to do for the past decade, and we're going to take another leap and hope that nothing implodes. So that would be me.
How would
how would $50,000 sound in the non-lapsing account? If there's some kind of an emergency, we can go for an appropriation with the town. And I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? Is that bad?
I just think that's
too
low.
low?
If we needed something in an emergency and when it takes time for the town, I think 50,000 is too low. I'm
Very
I mean,
expected.
would we not-
comfortable with
would we not-
100,000.
Right.
And I guess
But
it's,
something
but,
larger,
but what we
right?
might, it would,
Right.
it's one of those things where I think
But you know what
50,000
I'm
would be fine if the issue that we had were at the beginning of the year. And we had plenty of budget funds to be able to throw budget funds on at it in the moment because we needed to, and then have that appropriation come back through. But if it shows up in May,
Okay, I'm
what,
just trying
what
to-
do we do?
I'm just
That,
trying
no,
to
no. And I'm
understand
just saying, I guess that would just be where I would, I like, most things aren't going to cost more than $50,000, right? And you would hope that that would end up in that spot. But at the same time, to deplete that fund entirely down, I think feels
want it-
uncomfortable
we
to me.
Really would like.
We
use
want it to
that
be used for
fund
stuff.
For educational enrichment and for things for our students, not for emergency HVACs or whatever. So for me, 50,000 is way too low. If we have the district come to us and they want an enrichment program, they want something for our kids that's going to fulfill things for them. I don't want to sit here and be like, well, we spent it all on
No,
fixing stuff.
I know. I'm just trying to think of ways to move the needle a little bit to
Yeah.
give them their stuff.
Yeah, no, I
now.
get it. I mean, I agree, but 50 for
But I
me,
mean, I don't know.
I'm
I'm
kind
just
of with
thinking
Chet.
of
I'd be willing to go as low as 100, but that
100?
even,
Okay.
that's a dead stop for me. I definitely.
Lisa, I'm with you. I'm comfortable with 50. We went for years without a non-lapsing account. And while I'd love to give the kids that enrichment program that the teachers are asking for, I would be really bummed out if we had to cut the program altogether because we couldn't get a budget passed. So I'm 100% like, let's use that non-lapsing to get it done.
So I'm gonna.
Wait, can we do that? What's the
Can I-
license?
can I-
Hang on, I just want to finish. That license, Troy, that you said it was for 6 years.
That's correct. Yeah.
Which one is that?
That's the science, Savas,
So,
learning science.
I would
subscription.
also, because it's for 6 years,
Yeah.
so we wouldn't see that in our budget again, and who knows if that's even what we would still be using then. Can we keep that in the non-lapsing?
Makes sense to me.
But this one is for 6 years. Right, it's not next year or the year after. Go ahead, Brian.
So I was gonna say, I mean, you're saying 50, they're saying 100. Why don't we just go 75 and split the difference? Why don't we come to the middle and compromise?
Compromise. I would be okay with 75.
I feel much better at 75 than at 50.
Troy, can you show us?
I'm not gonna lie, I thought
Can
I
you
was
show
going
us
low
a
at
spend
100,
down to
but.
that?
I am, I'm appreciating the direction that I'm getting now. Thank you. 75, right? Got the number right.
Troy, would you
That's
also?
the amount that
We're just
remains, right? Not
asking
the
for
amount that
information.
we're spending. The amount that
leave
remains.
75 in.
75 of uncommitted funds, not 75 total.
That
And
was
I'm
my
just wondering
understanding.
how the board feels about looking at the stipend positions within the contract that I mentioned earlier in the meeting.
I want anything not, if we're not filling it, right? It shouldn't be in here.
It was the one about once we hire a.
Yeah, all those positions are
curriculum-
currently filled, just so you know.
When Christine pulled up the contract, it does say in the event that the board hires a curriculum director, the aforementioned program supervisor positions will immediately sunset and the stipend for the applicable contract year will be prorated. That's what we're discussing for math, English, social studies, science, unified arts. It's a $3,745 annual stipend.
I think, like I said before, those are really needed. Those are teacher leaders who run professional development groups. I've seen it done. It's very effective. They fulfill multiple roles, and it's separate from the director of learning and instruction. But also they support one another at the same time. It's part of our. It's like a department head. It's part of having a quality school district. it's leaders, and you get a lot of bang for your buck out of these people. This would be a huge morale issue if those stipends went away. In fact, I think the teachers could probably grieve this because it's part of their negotiated contract, and those positions are currently filled. So I would recommend that we keep them. And plus, what Kim Haggerty's doing is it's not curriculum director. It is director of learning and instruction. And she is going around and helping every teacher to improve the instruction in their classroom. That's way more than a curriculum director ever does. So I would argue she's not a curriculum director. In fact, she's actually teaching a class as well. So she's not a full-time curriculum director. And I would say it's not the case. In fact, I would guess the teachers union would gladly sign a memorandum of understanding with the superintendent to say, you know what, let's take that out of our contract.
Out of our contract, and a memorandum of understanding would be with the Board of Education, not with the superintendent.
Okay, so I think the teachers would gladly sign a memorandum of understanding with the Board of Education to remove that.
Remove the language? I don't
Well, I know,
understand what
but
they're
you'd want the
removing.
Board of Ed would have to agree.
To remove it,
That would
to
be part of
remove
the
the
understanding.
language. Yeah,
Right.
I think the teachers would gladly have that removed, is what I'm trying to get at.
Fine, yeah, thank you. I'm just looking at, I just want to keep our core education tight, safe, don't want to lose any teachers. If you're looking at programming, it always comes back to sports before it comes to education, which obviously would be horrific as well, but I'm just looking for other ways, that's all. I'm looking in the contract to see if there's anything that is negotiable. Clearly, that's not, so thank you.
Are we good talking about the budget tonight? Everybody okay? Moving on? Okay. Thanks. Okay, calendar. The most controversial issue of last year. Calendar. Troy, do you want to talk about the calendar?
So this is a first draft. I did meet with the administrators to talk about this a bit. It might not be perfect at this point in time. However, it does include a lot of the features that we have in our current calendar, where we do have 4 Wednesday half days scattered throughout for additional PD. We do have parent conferences in November and April. And we do have one weather day, like we have one weather day this year, well, had one weather day, which we're now going to have school before Memorial Day weekend. Well, that's where we put it again. I think having that one day was a nice kind of compromise. Instead of having no days, we have one day, and hopefully I don't have to cancel school more than one day. But if we do, then we kind of move the last day of school. So on this particular one, it would be Monday, June 15th would be the last day. By the way, the last 5 days being half days for everybody saves us about $1,000 a day in transportation because you don't have bus drivers waiting around, because they're when they give us the contract, it's for a typical school day, and we pay extra hours when it's not a typical day, and it's not a typical day when they have to come in and drive the Wheeler students home and then hang around for several hours and then drive the elementary school kids home if the elementary school had a full day on those 5 days. So that there is a financial benefit to keeping those half days at the elementary school there. So there you go. That's what I have.
So the only comment that I would make is that I always prefer the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of the first week, as opposed to just the Thursday, Friday of the first week, like we did this year. Just because I love the idea of a 3-day week, a 4-day week, and then a 5-day week. Myself as an instructor, and also for my kids who are trying to readjust to the idea of having to go to school. I don't know if there was a purpose. I don't want to push a PD day for the teachers back to the previous Friday. And so if that's our only other option, I guess that I would hate to say that the teachers have to come in on a Friday, Monday, Tuesday, and then start their school year on Wednesday. I would much rather not do that. But if there was another space for that PD or a different way to do that, I think that 3, 4, 5 is a wonderful way to start off the school year.
I think, yeah, part of the reason for the 3 days is so many mandated trainings that have to get in at the beginning of the year. And that's the reason for the 3 days. So the 3 days makes us be able to do that. I mean, is it essential? Probably not if we put a full PD day soon after the beginning of the school year. And then you could still kind of catch up on those mandated trainings. But there are so many, and those 3 days that's why it's there.
I mean, you're killing me with this. October, the week of the 20th, and then the week of the 3rd, like I've had the same complaint last year, but as long as you promise me that before and after care will have programming on these days. Yeah, something that makes it.
I think we could probably entertain something like that.
Something.
Because it is
better.
close anyway, but then you know, that first week of November, you're gonna have 2 days off, 1 full day, and then parent conferences. I guess we can move parent conferences to the next week, but I don't know how that lines up with the trimester at the elementary school or the quarter at Wheeler in terms of grading. I'm not sure. I'd have to check with the teachers and the administrators on that.
Well, and we also don't, I mean, because we have a separate voting facility, we don't necessarily need to have it on that day. So we could also back that up into October if earlier PD is really better, which I would say generally it is, because the earlier in the year you get your PD for your student or for your teachers, I mean, the more opportunity they have to use that PD to assist students. So,
yeah, I mean, we can certainly do that, but one of the reasons for choosing that day is because it's on the Learn regional calendar. And if we wanted to have PD with other schools, like, for example, Preston, who is also using Interreading program, it allows us to do that.
I do agree though with Chet. I like the Wednesday, and I think it would be nice to end on that 12th. If there's any way. I don't like that Monday off. Or I mean the 15th. I don't like the 15th. That Monday.
we've got it's a contractual day of school though. Like,
Wait,
that's
can
just-
you rearrange that?
to where?
I don't know.
Well, we could start the Friday before, I guess, with PD. That would do it. I don't know. There might be some other option I'm not seeing here, but. This is 182 days. No.
No graduation.
Because it's the last day of school. Graduation, we're setting at the last day of school from now on, and we're keeping it there, even if we have to add days, because we're able to do that. And we figured that out last year. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, in your packet. Sorry. Yes, in your packet, we realized there was an issue with Good Friday. That would explain the confusion. Sorry about that. Yes, in your paper packet handed out tonight, we did revise it because of the Good Friday. All right, and that's what had us bump the last day to the 15th in June, or to the Monday. Yes. At this point in time.
And we have
We could take out the weather day, and then you could have graduation on the 12th, and there could be no weather day. You could totally do that. That's a
because
good
that way
idea.
we set our graduation on that Friday, no matter what.
Yeah, no matter what.
Love that. Graduation can always be the Friday.
All right, we don't need a weather day. A lot of schools don't have built-in weather days like
know.
this. And we've decreased it. We had 3
Yep.
a couple of years ago, and then I think we made it went down to 2 and then 1, and it follows the pattern. Right?
But
you know
but
what?
at least we have our graduation day set.
Grade 9, 10, 11, 12 would be going to school, right, through the all of June, but the seniors, they're gonna be graduated because we get to pick their date.
So we have, our current contract is 182 student and 5 PD. Oh. Well, this is.
187 in the contract.
And it's 182 student, not 184 student? 182 student with 5 P, okay.
I have a question just about the way that it's noted at the bottom. Under shortened days, you have June 9th through 15th, half day for NSES, but it's a half day for Wheeler too, right?
It's above it.
It just says
The 8 got switched, I think they changed.
8, 9, 10, 11 half day exams for Wheeler. So what about the, I think it's confusing that it doesn't look like they're all half days for everybody.
The last 5 days are half days for everybody.
But is June 8th a half day for the elementary school? On the calendar, it looks like it's only a half day for the middle school, high school. Or for the high school.
I have to look at this exam schedule because that might be something that's a little off on this.
So would you say this calendar is not something we can vote on tonight?
Oh, yeah, no, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't think we can vote on it tonight. I
Okay.
think this was a first look
Okay.
for the board and to get some input, and I think we got some
He
good input.
he learned from last year that we were gonna bother the heck out of him about this calendar.
Okay.
I will bring it back.
So next on the agenda is proposal for executive session. I know we have a lot of people here, so we're going to go into executive session. We'll eventually come back out, but we'll just come back out for public comment and to adjourn. So you are welcome to stay, not in here, to come back for public comment.
I'm just
and adjourn.
curious, it is, we do have a lot of people both here and online, and I would entirely make a motion here to move public comment to before executive session.
I would
Just
entertain
in
that
case
motion.
there are people who would like to say something before this happens. So I make a motion to move public comment to 7B.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Does anybody have public comment in the room? So you don't have to stay until later? Anybody online? I'm looking at my husband. I know that guy.
No, I just hit it by accident. I apologize.
Okay. No public comment from Brett tonight. Okay. Okay. Well, thanks for that motion anyway, Chat. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, executive session we go.